Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Olayinka Abosede Ojo, and I'm here to teach you anatomy and physiology of farm animals. I'm very elated to be here today, and I know you feel the same way. Today's topic is cell. What are the fundamentals of cell? Cell is the basic building block of the body of all living organisms. I like to relate it with a physical building. Now, a physical building is existing because there are particular blocks, the normal molded blocks that have been arranged systematically to make the whole building. The same way we have a multicellular organism that contains cells which have been systematically arranged to make the whole multicellular organism existing. Cell is the basic building block of the body of all living organisms, whether it is plants or animals. Now, the cell theory. There are a lot of theory that surround cell, existence of cell. Now, the first one is the cell is the unit of structure and function of all living things. Take away the cell, the whole organism is not existent. If anything happens to the whole organism, check it very well. It has started with the cell. Why? Because the cell is the basic, is the most important, and is the basic. Now, number 2 says the function of an organism is the sum total of the activities and interactions of its component cell. Now, the function of an organism cannot be overemphasized. It is very, very important. And this stems from activities of each of the cells which makes the whole organism. Now, the third one said the nucleus is the most fundamental and constant component of the cell. A multicellular organism, which is eukaryotic in form, contains nucleus, and this is the control center of the cell. That is why it is constant and it is the component of the cell. Now, the last one says fundamental similarities exist in the chemical composition and metabolic activities of all cells. We have different cells. The cell of the heart is different from that of the muscles, but the major similarity between these cells is because they have their chemical composition and metabolic activities are similar, and they are fundamentally similar. Now, we have the different types of cells. We have the generalized cell and the specialized cell. It's just like we have the major 2 divisions of cell or 2 types of cell. One is generalized cell and another one is specialized cell. The generalized cells are those ones that have not been differentiated. They don't have specific differentiations. So an example is the inner cell of the human cheek and the fleshy layers of the onion bulb. Now we have the second one is specialized cell. Specialized cell, just as the name implies, they are specialized. They have particular function they perform. An example is the bone cell, the nerve cell, the sperm cell. These have specific function they carry out. That is why we call them specialized cell, and they are differentiated. What did I call it? They are differentiated. Now, the eukaryotic cell and the prokaryotic are the common 2 types of major types of cell that we have. The eukaryotic cell, they are also special. They are under the umbrella of specialized cells. They have many differentiations. They have their organelles, which are bounded by an envelope of 2 membranes. An example is mitochondria. And we have the prokaryotic cell. The prokaryotic cell are those ones that fall under the umbrella of generalized cells. They are smaller. They do not contain membrane-bound organelles. A good example is the bacteria and the blue-green algae. Now, this is a beautiful diagram of the animal cell. The animal cell they are differentiated, and they contain many organelles of different shapes and sizes. We have the lysosome, the centrosome, we have the nucleus, we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and a host of other organelles which are, you can see on the screen. Now, the cell structure and functions. If you see a typical cell, it is subdivided into 3 distinct parts. The number 1 is the cell covering, that is the outer covering of the cell. We call it cell membrane. We also call it plasma lemma, and that is for animal cell. For the plant cell, we have the cell wall. Now, after the cell covering or the covering of the cell, If you delve a little bit inside, we have the cytoplasm. What did I call it? Cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a fluid matrix of the cell which contains all organelles. That is where you can find all the organelles. Then the third one, we have the nucleus. What did I call it? The nucleus. The nucleus is the control center of the cell. It contains the nucleolus, it contains the nuclear material, the chromosomes, and the gene. Now, let's delve into the organelles proper. The first one is the cell membrane, or we also call it plasma membrane. The cell membrane is the network of all different lipids and proteins. Which is also forms the boundary between different cells, and they are the components of the cell and the outside of the cell. Now, it is selectively permeable. It does not permit just any material to enter or exit the cell. So that is why we call it selectively permeable. And why is it selectively permeable? Now, the cell membrane contains hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail. Let's go to the next slide so that you can understand better. Now, this is a typical image of the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane contains a hydrophilic, and we have the embedded with protein. We have the topmost part contains carbohydrate, the under contains carbohydrate, and in between these two, we have protein sandwiched inside, just like a normal sandwich. Where we have carbohydrate on top, carbohydrate under, and we have protein in between. So here, this blue portion of this plasma membrane is known as the protein. And we have different types of protein. We have the integral protein, which forms the integral part of the membrane. We also have the protein channel, the channel protein. The channel protein is the one that forms the passageway through which substances passes in and out of the cell. Then we talk about the peripheral protein. We also have combination of protein with carbohydrate, which is known as glycoprotein. We also have combination of lipid with carbohydrate, which is known as glycolipid. Now, this is the double phospholipid layer of the cell membrane sandwiched with protein. Now, we have the extracellular portion of the cell. We have the intracellular portion of the cell. The extracellular and intracellular contains the hydrophilic head. That is, hydro means water, right? And philic means loving. So we have water-loving head, and then we have hydrophobic tail. Hydro means water, phobic or phobia means hating. So we have the hydrophobic tail, that is water-hating tail. So the combination of these two makes the cell membrane to be selectively permeable. Now, the next organelle we are going to talk about is the lysosome. What did I call it? Lysosome. Lysosomes are tiny structures. We are also bounded with double membrane, and they originate from the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus. They contain hydrolytic enzymes. What are hydrolytic enzymes? These are the enzymes that function in breaking down foreign particles. They help to rupture sick cells, releasing their enzymes to lysate. Now, a typical example is the red blood cell. The red blood cells are removed or withdrawn from the circulation after about 3 to 4 months. By the time at 3 to 4 months, they have already been matured and they might be becoming a senescent cell. So the mechanism by which they are removed from the circulation is through the lysosome, the hydrolytic ability of the lysosome to break them down. So this is a typical example of how lysosome works. Lysosome is just likeable to the digestive system of the cell. Now, this is a typical image of the lysosome. The next organelle we're going to talk about is the mitochondria. What did I call it? Mitochondria. The mitochondria is also known as the powerhouse of the cell. What did I call it? The powerhouse of the cell. Good. Mitochondria contains enzymes which are associated with oxidation of citric acid cycle and storage of energy by means of changing it from ADP to ATP. ADP means adenosine diphosphate, while ATP means adenosine triphosphate. This is the form by which energy is supplied or made available to the cell. Now, mitochondria is responsible for cellular respiration and production of this ATP in the cell. This is a typical image of the mitochondria. It has two layers. The inner layer is thrown into folds, which enables it to have more surface area for attachment of these enzymes. The next, if you have any comments or questions, please put it right at the chat box and I will be able to attend to it. Thank you. The ribosome is the next organelle we're going to talk about. The ribosome function in synthesizing proteins. They are spherical in nature and they are tiny structures, and they contain ribonucleic acid particles which are scattered on the surface of the endoplasmic reticulum. This means that the endoplasmic reticulum form their transport system. Some of these ribosomes are found free in the cytoplasm, while some are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. This is a very beautiful image of the ribosome. It is spherical, contains amino acids and mRNA. The next organelle we're going to talk about is the Golgi apparatus. What did I call it? The Golgi apparatus. Thank you. What does the Golgi apparatus do? Who can say something? Who can guess what the Golgi apparatus do? Yes, I'm waiting. Yeah, thank you. They carry export materials like enzymes and hormones which the cell produces. How do they do this carriage? They act by carrying the substances towards the cell plasma membrane and through a process known as exocytosis. What do I call the process? Exocytosis. Now, we have different transport systems in our country, in our local, in our metropolis, and as well as other parts of the world. We have aeroplane, we have yachts, we have ship, we have cars, we have buses. All this helps to transport materials, whether humans or food materials. The same way, the Golgi apparatus forms part of the transport system that exists in the cell, which helps to carry materials through the process known as exocytosis. What is exocytosis? Yes, who can tell me? What is exocytosis? Yes, thank you. Exocytosis is a cellular process which enhances the movement of large molecules and waste out of the cell cytoplasm into the exterior, or we also call it extracellular space. This is a very beautiful image of the Golgi apparatus. The fold enhances higher surface area to be able to move materials from the cell out through to the exterior. The next organelle we are going to talk about is endoplasmic reticulum, which is also tagged as ER. Rough endoplasmic reticulum helps to carry ribosome. That is why they are called rough endoplasmic reticulum, because they have the ribosomes attached to their surface. We also have another type known as smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This smooth endoplasmic reticulum do not carry any material on them. So the rough endoplasmic reticulum transport the proteins which has been synthesized by the ribosome, while the smooth endoplasmic reticulum acts as the site of lipid and steroid synthesis. They also helps in transportation of materials out of the cell to the organs. Now, helps to the combination of this fold in endoplasmic reticulum enhances an increased surface area. Can you see this image that is expressing the shape and the position of the endoplasmic reticulum, both the smooth and the rough endoplasmic type? Now, the next organelle is the nucleus. What did I call it? The nucleus. The nucleus is the control center of the cell, which controls all activities that take place within the cell. Just like the brain controls the activity of the whole organism, maybe the human or animals. The same way the brain helps to control the activities of an organism, multicellular organism, that same way the nucleus controls the activities that occurs in the cell. A combination of the nucleus and the cytoplasm makes the protoplasm. Nucleus contains genetic material. This is a typical image of the nucleus, which contains the nuclear membrane, the nuclear pores, the nucleolus, the nuclear plasma, and the chromatin threads. The centriole is the next organelle we are going to discuss. The centriole forms, or they have a short cylindrical shape, and they consist of 9 filaments which is arranged in its side. They are always located near the nucleus. When you want to check for them, just check around the nucleus. You will see them there. They function in cell division and formation of spindle fiber during cell division. This is a typical image of the centriole, and they always occur in pairs. They don't occur as single, they occur in pairs. So check around the nucleus, you will see paired centriole, which is very, very visible. The next one is microtubule. What did I call it? Microtubules. Microtubules are also rod-like, and they are scattered throughout the cytoplasm. You won't find them specifically around the nucleus, just the way you will see other tiny structures. You will see microtubules scattered around the cytoplasm, and they are scattered in order to become the skeletal element which gives structure and form to the cells. They also take part in cell division, and they act as contractile elements in cilia. This is a typical image of the microtubule. Can you see the way it is scattered all over the cell? That is the nucleus. It is still scattered all over the cell, including the nucleus, to give it resilience, to give it structure and strength. Now, the next one organ we're going to talk about is microfilament. What did I call it? Microfilament. You might want to ask a question. How is microfilament different from microtubule? The difference is that microfilaments are thinner than microtubules, and they're also associated with contraction. Microfilaments also provide structural integrity to the cell, just the way microtubules do. It's just that they are tinier, smaller in size. This is a typical image of the microfilament. Although they look bigger, but in the recent they are thinner. And this is just a good magnification to show how they look like. This is where we are going to stop the class for today. I really appreciate you for your attention, and thank you for your time. God bless you. Till the next time, please subscribe to this channel and expect many more lectures that will make you understand better. Thank you so much.